are freeze-dried sour cream and onion zucchini puffs, which are really crunchy. And they eat like a Cheeto, like a puffy Cheeto, except for they're really good for you. They're just made from zucchini. They're low in carbs. They're a fantastic snack, and I'm going to show you how I make them. Of course, you'll need zucchini. You can actually use any summer squash for this recipe. I'm using mostly green zucchini, but I also have one beautiful yellow summer squash. And this is the perfect size. I really like them when they're small like this and really tender. And we're going to start by just cutting these into big bite-sized pieces. I always cut off the top and the bottom first. We're not going to use those. Those will go in the compost bucket. But then I like to cut the zucchini in half because I find that the bottom half is usually a little bit thicker than the top half. I think there's probably a lot of different ways you could cut these, but I like this method for its speed, and it gives you a really nice size zucchini chunk. You really just don't want these too big. So I quarter the zucchini, and then I just cut it into those big bite-sized pieces. Just like this. I think that these are perfect. And then I want to move on to the bottom piece. Now this one is it had a pretty similar size to the top of the zucchini, so I'm just going to cut it into quarters again. But if the bottom is a lot bigger, I'll often cut it into 6 kind of sticks instead of 4 at the beginning. This green zucchini is similarly skinny, so I'm going to cut it the exact same way. Now if you have larger zucchini, you can use them here, but you're going to have to treat them a little bit differently. The issue with a larger zucchini is that as they get more than like 3 inches diameter, they start to get seeds inside. And besides being just not pleasant to eat, the seeds can hide moisture when you freeze dry something. So you want to open the zucchini up, cut it lengthwise to expose the inside, and use a spoon to scrape out any of that seed cavity. But that's why I like these young, tender ones. They're just tender through and through, and they're really perfect for this. And I'm just going to keep chopping until I have 5 cups of cubed zucchini, because that is what this recipe calls for, and that is the amount that fits on one medium freeze dryer tray. Just like frozen vegetables will keep better quality if they're blanched first, so do freeze-dried vegetables. So I am steaming these. I steamed them for 2 minutes. I did 1 minute, and then I stirred them around, and I steamed them for another minute, and now I'm taking them out. There's no need for an ice bath here. I just move these onto a clean kitchen towel on a pan in a single layer, and they're going to sit here until they're cool. Now on to the seasoning. Once the zucchini is cool, I pile it in a bowl and drizzle it with olive oil, and that's what's going to help the seasoning stick. For the sour cream and onion flavor, I use whole milk powder, just like dried milk. That's what gives it the sour, creamy kind of dairy flavor. And then, of course, lots of granulated onion, garlic, parsley, and salt. I'll put the recipe in the video description below. You want to make sure that you get the olive oil coated on every single side of every single piece of zucchini. I used 2 teaspoons of olive oil, and now I'm just going to fold these around really, really well until they're all coated. Once all the pieces are just glistening with oil, I add the seasoning. And this I do in a very specific way. I don't want to add it, just dump it all in at once. I do it in layers. So I add about maybe 1/4 to 1/3 of the seasoning, and then fold it all around so they get coated. And then I'll add another 1/3 or 1/4 of the seasoning and fold them again. This just helps ensure that every piece gets coated, and some don't have all the seasoning and others don't have no seasoning. And then I'm just going to add the rest of the seasoning. So as far as freeze-dried foods go, it's notoriously hard to get powders and seasonings to stick to freeze-dried foods once they're dry, but I think that this works well. I think the oil and just the natural moisture and the zucchini works well to hold most of the seasoning on. You will lose a little bit, but for the most part, it will all stick pretty well. Now just spread the zucchini onto your freeze dryer tray. There's no need for parchment paper here. It won't stick, but if you prefer to use parchment, you can definitely do that. And if you want to make an entire freeze dryer load worth of zucchini, you can quadruple this recipe. I always pre-freeze my food before loading it into the freeze dryer, and that's what I'd recommend you do as well for these zucchini. So I'm just going to load them in. I've got some other stuff in here, other zucchini products as well, but I'm going to turn it on and set it and forget it. And here's what they look like when they're done. Sorry I couldn't show you them on the trays, but they came out of the freeze dryer late at night and it was too dark to make any good video, so I packaged them up. And I always use an oxygen absorber, especially for anything with fat, and this has a little bit of olive oil on it, of course. But here they are. They're really delicious. I've made these several times. It's just a fantastic way to preserve zucchini and to turn it into something that's a little bit higher value, because they really I mean, they don't really taste like a Cheeto, but they kind of do, you know. They're about as close to a Cheeto as you could get for being a vegetable. They're light and airy and crunchy and salty and really good. I really love having a freeze dryer. It certainly provides a lot of unique and interesting ways to preserve foods. If you ever consider getting a freeze dryer, I have an affiliate link with Harvest Right, and I sure would appreciate if you used it. All you have to do is click on the link. I'll put it in the video description below when you go to purchase, and the price is the same for you, but I get a little bit of a kickback. And that's it. That is freeze-dried sour cream and onion zucchini puffs. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you could give it a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you are the first to know whenever a new video is posted.